I'd like to call to order today, February 7th, East Line Board of Ed regular meeting. If everyone can stand for the, join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment. Is there anyone who would like to just state your, oh, sure. Do you want to hand them to us and we can hand them out?
Yeah.
Your body.
Yeah, I'll take it.
We'll get this to the board member on Zoom as well. Okay.
I'll grab one from Jeff. Can I hold?
Yep.
Thanks. And just state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Dombrowski. I live at 103 Walnut Hill Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight regarding the budget proposal to reduce the number of Flanders third grade teachers, thereby increasing the class sizes for that cohort for next year. Hopefully the document that I've passed around will provide some background information and context on the 3-year history of this cohort, especially for those who are new to the Board of Ed or new to the district. It's been mentioned that you've heard from many concerned parents on this item, and hopefully this 3-year timeline can help explain that. In the interest of time tonight, I won't go through the handout line by line. Hopefully you can read it through in detail on your own. However, I do want to highlight 2 main points. First, this cohort at Flanders and Lily B started with high class sizes in kindergarten, which then continued into the 1st grade year because of COVID and the need to overhaul the budget to focus on one-to-one device purchases. No doubt that had it been known then what we know now, different staffing decisions would have been made at the start of that kinder year to reduce class sizes at that time. Secondly, last April at the Board of Finance meeting, and Ann Chichillo may recall this, Board of Finance members questioned the need for adding a 2nd grade teacher at both Flanders and Lily B. Assistant Superintendent Amy Drown confirmed the need was justified because of the data that they were seeing. She noted that the 1st grade classes at those 2 schools with the higher class sizes were showing lower literacy scores versus NCS and between other grades within their schools. These are the same students who will be 3rd graders next year. So the key takeaway there is that class size matters, especially in the early grades when foundational literacy and math skills are being developed. So even with COVID affecting everyone, there was still a measurable impact between campuses and grades that had different class sizes for kinder and 1st grade years. So I fully support the need to reduce the class sizes now in the younger grades at Lily B. Haynes because of growth and increased special needs there. But I'd ask you to take another look at the assessment data and SEL data for the same Flanders cohort that would be impacted again by larger class sizes in 3rd grade next year. Hopefully another solution can be found to meet those kids' needs for recovery as well. Thank you for your time tonight and for all you do for our students, staff, and families.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Is there anyone else for state your name and address, please? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nat Johnson. I live at 234 Grassy Hill Road. I just wanted to comment on actually the same issue that Bonnie just commented on. So I'm a parent of a second grader at Flanders and a fourth grader at Flanders School. And so when a teacher was added to their grade level this past year, I was very thankful because, as Bonnie mentioned, they had to have larger class sizes for kindergarten and first grade. And so when we heard that there was the potential that one of the teachers was going to be reassigned from their class for the coming year when they went through third grade, I was a little apprehensive, I would say, and kind of incredulous that they had caught up to the extent that they could accommodate those larger class sizes again. So I'm grateful that this is a continuing discussion, and I just wanted to voice support for maintaining the current level of teacher assignments at the Flanders third grade next year. Thanks everyone for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Matt.
you.
Thanks, man.
Is there another public comment, please?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for listening. My name is Stephen Faulkner. I'm the parent of Edith in second grade and Maud in kindergarten. I echo the other parents' comments.
Can you just add your address?
Yes, 21 Village Drive.
Thank you.
I echo the other parents' comments. I feel that I don't think I need to explain that larger class sizes impacts children's education. The class sizes are larger than the guidelines, and they are significantly larger than some of the other schools in the district, by as much as 5 people per class. That leads to a lesser education for our children because the teachers have less time to spend on them. It's more stress for the teachers who are already under a lot of stress. And as a taxpayer, sometimes I feel if my kids are in a class that have 5 more people, perhaps I'm not getting bang for buck as a taxpayer. There's 3 good reasons that I'd like to present, and I'd like to support having the extra teacher for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Elizabeth Mondello, 12 Black Oak Drive, East Lyme. To the members of the East Lyme Board, at the last meeting I spoke at, I was informed that board policy dictated that the board funnel all responses to questions and concerns to either the superintendent or the board chairman. I disagree that that is what policy 90/20 means. It was last revised in 2014. It says that the board directs the superintendent to maintain procedures for communications about decisions made at meetings to be disseminated to the public. It doesn't say that the board can't communicate with its constituents. This is a poor way to conduct an elected board. We are your constituents, and we have a right, and you have a responsibility to explain individually questions about your comments or votes. The board is elected as individuals, not as a collective. I did meet with a board member individually on March 31st, 2021 to discuss the draft strategic equity plan. Please note, I appreciate that meeting. Thank you. I believe it resulted in a new draft of the strategic plan being written, which removed the textual reference, but not the use of the 20th year anniversary of critical race theory in education, among other edits. This equity plan was then released to the public, which had 4 hours to notice, read, and comment on it before the board unanimously approved it that evening. I would like to propose this board adopt a pro outreach policy, including monthly listening sessions for the public. Your current policy of insularity and text polls is not working. And now about the school budget. This board is asking the town of East Lyme to pay millions of dollars to the school budget. This town has a long and proud tradition of having excellent schools. However, when the board says this ignorant and prejudiced statement about the board's town's residents, I think that an apology is required before 1 penny gets voted for it. As stated in the board's equity strategic plan, as passed unanimously by the board on April 5th, 2021. It says, racism is a complex system of beliefs and behaviors grounded in a presumed superiority of the white race. These beliefs and behaviors are conscious and unconscious, personal and institutional, and result in the oppression of people of color and benefit the dominant group, whites. A simpler definition is racial prejudice plus power equals racism. End of quote. I believe that everyone is an individual, valuable in their own part. This collective thinking is a disgrace to this board, and it should not stand. I would like to see an apology and a retraction of this entire plan that this is based on. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Scott Mayon. I'm speaking on behalf of the East Line Teachers Association. A couple of weeks ago, I started thinking about the mask mandate and the fact that supposedly February 15th, Governor Lamont was going to weigh in on what was going to happen with that. The expiration was occurring then. We found out today at 4:15 that February 28th, I believe, is when the mask mandate will end in schools. I don't know as if that necessarily changes what I have to say tonight, but I did want to kind of give you some information that comes from the membership. It's now in our hands and how we handle the wearing or not wearing of masks in our schools at this point. And there are, as you know, an extreme amount of variables that we're really going to have to pay attention to as we move forward. So really, from the membership, we're asking that we make sure that we make decisions based on science, that that we follow. And I think as Superintendent Newton has done consistently, followed the CDC and followed the Department of Health the guidelines and what they say to do. And I think we need to continue to do make sure that we continue to do that. It's not about fear; it's about keeping our schools open. It's about making sure that our kids continue to learn. I think that wearing a mask is not necessarily stopping that education. And we need to make sure that students are available to learn and teachers are available to teach. It's not about overwhelming a staff that's already burned out. It's not about overwhelming students that are burnt out as well. But when there are absences, there are no subs, or there are very few that can handle that. And the work is still there that needs to be done on every level. We have teachers covering for each other. We do have that MOU, but we also have teachers who are trying to help each other out throughout the day and throughout the schools. Low vaccination rates, as you know, among younger students means higher transmission. That's just the science. Masks may not prevent the spread, but it does lower it, and it lowers the impact that it has on that problem. The anecdotes that we hear from parents and other people who feel that masks are not necessary anymore, I think often reflect their own personal experience and not necessarily looking at the larger group and not really fully understanding the larger experience. I don't know, there may be at this point, but from what I understand at this point, there are no actual studies that connect masks to mental health, certainly the pandemic to mental health, but I don't think specifically in terms of masks. So I'm asking, as we move forward and we get closer to February 28th, that we really consider all of these variables. The fact that we have both immunocompromised students, we have students with immunocompromised families, we have teachers and staff that have that same kind of issue. Once masks come off, what does that mean in terms of social distancing? Right now, if students and teachers are wearing masks, that 3-foot distance has become manageable. Most teachers feel okay being able to do that. When you get into lab situations and collaborative situations and nobody has a mask on, or one teacher has a mask and the student doesn't, this can be highly problematic. So I urge that we continue to look at the science. I did run a survey, and I can give you some of that information if you like.
We're at, 3
Okay,
minutes.
that's
Yeah,
fine. I can certainly send that information to you.
I'm happy
if you
to
like.
share, absolutely.
Okay, so,
Yeah. I'll share with the board.
It's interesting. I'm not saying that it's overwhelming on one side or the other, but at least 80% are going to be wearing masks within the school. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, that closes public comment. We'll move on to approval of minutes. So we have the regular meeting, the January 24th meeting. Did anyone have any edits or corrections? Anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Making a motion to approve the minutes from January 24th.
I'll second it.
Bill? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain,
I'm abstaining.
Jill? And
I
oh, shoot, I can't see. Yeah.
I don't think her picture's up.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, there she is in the middle.
Yeah, I see
Yeah,
that.
there she
Okay,
is. Yeah.
okay, there's Laura. So Laura abstains, and Jill abstains, and any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Now we move on to the Selectmen Report, and we have Ann Patel.
Hi, everybody. I'll be here for the month of February. So what they're doing with the Board of Selectmen this year is, I guess they give each 2 months for the Board of Ed meetings. So I'll be here in February and August. So,
Okay, great.
yeah, so I'm happy to be here. Just to kind of give you a quick scenario of summary of what's been going on. The police right now are in the public safety building. We had a tour last week, the Board of Selectmen, and they've done a great job, very impressive. The first selectman did say that for the public, they're gonna videotape the whole building and you'll be able to see how the building is turned out. There was a big rain, I think it was, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, it was a big storm. And there was no leaks, the roof is doing fine. And they're just working on their final punch list. So very exciting news. And then the other, about 2 weeks ago, people probably know, we passed out masks and COVID tests on a Sunday morning over at the middle school. And that went really well. We have less people than we had anticipated. And if people want more masks or COVID tests, they can now go to the town hall and ask if the first license. Additionally, the other big issue going on with the Board of Selectmen now is the ARP funds. So total funding that Eastland will get, I'm just kind of doing ballpark, it's about 5.4 million appropriated so far under First Selectman Nickerson was about 1.68 million. And there's another 3.77 million. So for that 3.77 million, we formed a subcommittee with about 8 people, 2 from the Board of Selectmen, 2 from the Board of Finance, a 501c3 small business, and 2 residents from East Lyme. And there's an application up on the town website for small businesses to be able to apply in 501c3. And those applications are due by February 22nd. At that point, the committee will review them. And then also we're hearing from the departments in town. They'll be presenting to this subcommittee, ARP subcommittee. And then in March, I think it's March 8th, we will be presenting to the Board of Selectmen our recommendations, and then they'll have the final say. So those are the big issues that are going on right now with the Board of Selectmen. Okay.
I know it's a big talking point in town right now.
Sure.
The videotaped open house, is there ever gonna be an in-person one, since a lot of people I know want to see what it actually looks like inside?
You know, I don't know. We do have another meeting coming up and I'll bring that up.
Okay.
I think right now, it's because the police are actually in session, so like when we went to tour it, they were like, somebody was there actually doing an interview and they're like, oh no, you can't go in there. Right now, they're doing an interview and then they're like, oh, somebody's actually in the men's bathroom, you can't go in there. You know what I mean? So.
No, I know,
It's actually in use.
I know a lot of people want to actually see what happened in the controversial building.
Yeah.
and
And I totally understand that. And I kind of thought the same thing. So I will bring that up.
Yeah.
At the next Board of Selectmen meeting. I think it's really impressive to go and see it in a video sometimes, as you know, it's not the same as seeing it in person.
All right, thank you.
Of course.
Thanks. Other questions? Go ahead, Jill.
Jill,
I have a question, don't mean to put you on the spot, but you've got the Board of Finance and you've got the Board of Selectmen on that committee. I'm just surprised we don't have a representative from the Board of Ed since we're 2/3 of the budget. Or you're basically saying, I mean.
well, no, because the Board of Ed has their own money. This is the ARP funds. So they have, you guys have your own money that you're spending. This is for
Just for
basically
the town.
the town. So that's
Okay,
why
so
it's
we've
all
got our
this
separate funds.
501c3s.
We do.
I didn't know if you've been cut
Yeah.
off.
It's the town. The Board of Ed gets
They
all
draw the
that.
line.
I'm like, come on, there's
Yeah.
three. There's a bunch of money out there. Well, if there's any left over, Ann, please
Oh,
let
yeah.
me know.
Any other questions? Rob? Thanks.
Nice to see you. Ann.
Thank you for coming.
Sure.
Now we'll move over to our student representatives. We have Sachi and Brendan.
Hi, everyone. So this Friday, there's Three Rivers representative coming in. It's Eastern signing day, I guess. And pretty much my understanding of it is that anyone that goes and sees this representative and they help you sign up is granted like a free application waiver. So that's really cool, I think. So because of our snow days, we will be having school on Friday the 18th. We are starting the process of course selection starting now, just kind of a busy time. Hopefully I'm not a part of that. So, but just to throw that out there. Going into sports, the boys basketball team plays 17 at home on Saturday. There's been, I feel like a bunch of changes in restrictions on fans and such, but everyone seems to be happy now. Students are allowed to come. Everyone seems to be respecting the masks as well. And I think there's a bunch of people reminding them as well, which is amazing. The girls basketball team has a tough week ahead. We have 4 games in 5 days
Wow.
because of like storm cancellations, and I think there was some COVID issues as well. So that's coming on this week. And then great news, the boys, girls, and indoor tracks team both won ECCs this weekend, which is phenomenal. So that's
All right, so I was actually at that track meet. I just wanted to add, we had quite a few people qualify for states there, and it's good to see people continue their season on at least for another week. So I was glad to be able to see that, glad to see our students doing well. Other than that, 8th grade parent night is coming up on February 17th, so it's going to be good to see like that young grade start to make the transition up to high school, just starting with parents now, and later it's just going to be that progression. So then junior college planning night is on the 24th. That's always exciting. A few of my classmates have been discussing it, and yeah, I think in general we're all looking forward to it. The student run assembly last week went very well. I've heard from numerous people that it was extremely educational and beneficial, and I was glad to see some of my peers up there, both in my grade and in the grades below and above me, talking about their experiences. So very moving, very meaningful. And lastly, Nicole Hahn and Tenzin Surmo were accepted into the jury Connecticut Scholastic Arts Awards, and their virtual award ceremony will be held on February 12th. So yeah, that's all we have to say today.
Great.
Very good. Thank you, guys.
Any questions?
Good luck,
Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a rough one, I'm telling you.
That's a lot.
Right.
Thank you both.
Thanks so much
Thank you,
for
Russ.
updates.
You don't
You're
have to. say
more than
it.
welcome.
Just stay there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay, so that concludes special reports. We do have a consent agenda item. Does anyone have any?
I would like to recommend approval of the proposed, the consent agenda as posted.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. I can't see Laura.
Yeah.
And
Is
Kate.
Laura's
Kate
right
there?
there. Kate, I don't see.
She's
She
there.
approved.
That's
Laura
just a picture.
approved.
Is she voting?
Laura approved.
She's shaking her head yes. but I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
Laura
There's no
approved.
picture of Kate, so I
There's
don't know
nothing
who
of
she is.
Kate. Well,
Okay. We'll assume she says
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So for those at home, so count my thing. Five. Okay. I don't
That's
know.
fine.
I don't know.
No,
You can.
Abstain or I can
Yeah, I
approve?
think that would be a good idea.
If you,
I'll
I would
abstain.
abstain.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for those at home, the consent agenda was a proposed donation from Pfizer through myself, Eric Bauman, through the Benevity Causes Portal to East Lyme High School in the amount of $971. Just so people know, it's Pfizer, if you volunteer a certain number of hours for an organization, you can donate, they'll donate $1,000. I'm not sure exactly why it's 971 and not 1,000, which is something I will look
I think that
into.
there's
it says
Dollars.
in
Well,
the
yeah,
service
there's
fee
some
on
service
the
charge,
fee.
yeah, but I don't think that's right, but I'll have to look into why that is.
We want that money back.
Anyway, so it's nice that Pfizer gives that opportunity for their employees to, where they volunteer time.
I saw the banner, it looks nice.
I haven't.
I saw it on the computer, on Deb Kelly's
Okay.
high school notice that she sent out.
Yeah.
It's posted on there.
It's pretty neat to see those
It
names.
looks nice.
Tomorrow I'm going to the game. Finally, we're allowed. So tomorrow I will be, yes.
Personally, I like that there's more girls on the list than boys. That's all I'm saying.
So next, now we begin our discussion and action items. And the first topic is always a fun one. We have discussion and action for the proposed East Lyme Public School calendar for the 2022-2023 school year.
All right, so our yearly tradition to bring the district calendar forward for review and discussion. Let me preface, we started off the calendar with a draft. We give it to our PDAC committee, our Professional Evaluation Development Committee.
Yep.
So Annalise took it to that group. They made some recommendations. We made some adjustments and tweaks. We looked it over again. We sent it back to them.
Yep.
And then we have it now to bring forward as our recommended calendar for next year. It also has some alignment with Learn. We don't have to do a regional calendar anymore, as you probably all know, but we still try and align, vacations and so forth. And folks who work here might have kids in other towns and districts, obviously. So we try and stay aligned as much as possible. Not a lot of vast changes from this current year. You can see the start of this week at all of the first week, August 22nd through the 26th. All of our work with staff and application and professional development and planning happens that week. Kids start on the 29th of August. They have a 4-day week. We get some feedback that teachers and staff felt that, we had originally had 5 days that week. They felt 4 would be better, and we agree. It's a good way to start off, the school year. Everyone, it's an exhausting first week, that's for sure. So the September and October, pretty straightforward. November, here's where there's a change in November, which we want to make sure you're aware of. We've had parent, you're chuckling, Jane. We've had parent-teacher conferences. They've been earlier in November, the last couple of years. Through PDAC,
they roll in, let me let you kind of share what they were feeling about this.
Yeah, it
moving
actually
closer to
originally
December.
surfaced from the standards-based report card committee that we're working with this year and trying to get conferences closer to the end of the first trimester. So we moved to trimesters at the elementary level for a variety of reasons, to report out earlier than halfway through the year for families and also to align our reporting with the middle school. But it's now our conferences are misaligned. And so they requested getting those conferences closer to the end of that reporting so that the report card can be presented in at least draft form to families while they're conferencing, and the portfolio of work that they're presenting really aligns to the standards that they've rated for that marking period. So
So students would have a
that's the request.
half day on that Monday, the 21st.
It
and
does
then,
make it a little quirky for students,
It's a little bit.
for parents.
Well, yeah, we kind
look
of
at it
talked
both
about that
ways.
at length, you could kind of go both ways, where,
Yeah.
there might be some parents that want to go away, and a lot of parents have had success zooming in for conferences, and it's worked. And it's an option that, I think we're willing to kind of continue. It seems many teachers like it as well. We can further those conversations, obviously. But this is a little bit different, but if some parents, again, want to be, and students want to be away for the full week, they now have that as a potential opportunity other than that half day of school on Monday, the 21st.
Just so you're saying the parents can now zoom in if they so choose?
Yeah.
Yes, we've been using that Zoom option for conferences. It seemed to work pretty
This is
well.
great.
Again, not saying that's, I want to continue forward, but as of right now, it's worked. So that is a change in November. The other months are pretty straightforward. The snowflake days are in there. We've used 2 so far, this year. And then the last day of school would be Thursday, June 15th, which meets the 181 student day mark. That could be a little dicey. That's only because, we've got 3 snow days embedded in the calendar. And we've got the option for, 1 more, and then we get into that next week after that, which sometimes can be problematic. As graduation, trying to graduation on a Monday potentially, but it's a gamble we take every year with snow days and so forth. So that's what we're looking at. Again, a lot of feedback from our staff and our PDAC committee, which is important.
The other piece that came up around moving the conferences off of November 8th was, I think historically, we use that day for professional development. That sometimes is a day that is regional PD is offered more for our specials areas. And if conferences are offered on that same day, it does interfere with the ability to participate. It wasn't really an issue this year because regional PD didn't happen the way it typically does, but we're really hopeful that we get back to offering some regional PD opportunities. So that was one other talking point that surfaced during that conversation.
Election day, as we know, as well.
Right.
That day. So again, pretty straightforward calendar. For any questions, they had a chance to kind of look at it over the weekend as well, or a chance to look at it now, and I'd like to move.
Okay, well, my first question is, who is on the PDAC committee?
As
You want
series of
names of people?
No, like,
Well,
what
yeah,
is your
roll.
population?
roles of
So they are teachers, special education, there's a mix of, there's a representative from every level,
Okay,
and it's a mix of classroom teachers and special educators. There's also some building administrators on the committee as well.
have we thought about adding anyone from the PTA cohort from the schools?
we wouldn't for this committee. This is state-based. The PDAC started from
No, I'm
evaluation.
saying for like this committee that works on the calendar.
No,
Just for feedback. I
Not for-
think,
we
'cause
use the
I'm in the
parent-
same room.
Because I
We
say
use the
this every
parent
year,
count,
but we
the
have
parent
parents who get to see this before it comes to us.
and we try and use the
I would
parent
think that would be
advisory
the parent
council.
advisory council, but
That's.
yeah, PDAC is associated, is actually a state mandated required committee around professional development and evaluation. But because there's professional development embedded into this calendar, we usually bring it to them for their feedback.
Okay. So I guess my feedback is to maybe have parent advisory committee look at it before coming to us too. only because I'm gonna comment on then the week in November.
Yep.
I don't know a lot of jobs that will give parents the week of Thanksgiving off. Because there's parent-teacher conferences and it's a holiday.
Well,
week.
they can Zoom. right
Well,
from
yeah,
the
but if they're having no
office.
school on the 22nd, no school the 23rd, no school the 24th, no school the 25th, and the half a day on the
Yeah.
21st.
You're saying
A
for,
lot of jobs
Yep.
don't give parents holiday trees off. And I know we're not just here because we're not daycare. I understand all of that. But a lot of what we do, parents have to work around schedules. So that's my big spiel.
Yep.
I'm not gonna comment on half days because I say that every year. I don't think half days are really good days. But that's my big thing on this calendar is that week in November is gonna be a tough for
definitely different,
parents.
yeah.
So we did look at pushing those days out into the first week in December, because that would still sort of align with that first trimester. We just weren't sure, is it then another, so if you look at December and you do that, there's only 17 days of school in December. So that would make it 16, 15 and a half, really.
I don't,
So we looked at it a variety of different ways, but I'm open to other suggestions that I could bring back.
My turn. I would just like to say this at the other end of the continuum. I used to live my life by this calendar too. I did it for 12 years. I guess I saw this as an opportunity to proactively put things in place, work with other parents or whatever I needed to do, because I worked full-time at this, as everyone else does on this board. And I just made it work. I'm not that I'm any martyr, but I can't expect, I guess is what I'm saying is, we've got it. I support whatever you guys need to do to meet the teachers' needs and the school as a whole. And one of the things that they did when my daughter was in elementary, they would run programs on those whole week offs. Like I remember it's not called Easter anymore, spring break, or like this week. So I don't know, but I guess I think, and I understand, Jamie, it's hard to be a working parent. I only have one, but I'm not sure if we'll ever be able to come to agreement because you're dealing with.
Yeah. I do know before and after care does offer childcare services on those days. So the conference days. So
right, okay, but so they're gonna do full day care on the
they will
Tuesday?
offer full day care for full day conferences and half day care on the half day conferences.
It's
That is
usually
a
till
part of
5
their programming.
Isn't it usually till 5:30 or it used to be?
6.
6, so, yeah, it opens at 7, doesn't it? Or
Yes.
did?
7 a.m. Candace?
Yeah, I just wanted to add the caveat that it seems like a great idea just to simply bring the draft to the parent council just for feedback. I think that it's a nice way of bringing other people and perspectives in, since that's what we do, right? I mean, that's what our district is really based on quite often, is having lots of perspectives at the table. So I just think that it's a great idea to do that, because oftentimes it is a contentious thing. I personally have never had such contention with the calendar. I always feel like there are a lot of people, there's a lot of factors that are considered, and what very often, as soon as that calendar is put out, there's a tremendous amount of issues with it. I think that we've had a committee for many years, and then they adapt a census, and then the board would go with it. Then we have what you're stating, which is the state run, and then we're kind of eliminating another whole group of people that really should have some sort of input. So I just think that the input taken from those folks, it might not be so contentious, right? If we all have some kind of thoughts put into it. That's all.
Sure, you can certainly consider that.
Yeah, kind of in a similar vein. I know, and
this feedback is not for the 22-23 draft, but I'm thinking, looking ahead beyond that. I know there's a lot of parent feelings around half days. I also know there's a lot of teacher feelings around half days too.
Absolutely.
And so I think long-term, it might even be helpful to collect some data from lots of different constituents on that specific point, because I think from sitting here for this conversation year after year, that tends to be the one thing that we focus on over and over again. And I think it'd be helpful to do a little bit more like robust listening, if you will, from lots of different constituents, if that's something that we really want to shake up in future years.
Lisa.
So it seems, this is obviously the first time that I'm engaging in this conversation, but over the years, in my experience as a parent, I've seen the calendar evolve, right? So it's changed little bits and pieces here and there. Yes, I know it's a change in November. I think that, to your point, Lee, I think that, you know, we can all sort of offer from our own perspectives, you know, differences that we will realize with the different days proposed as half days and off and all of that. But as you mentioned, there's a number of options, right, that we can look at. And I just had a question for you. Do the 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving, is that, I can't recall.
The
Full day off.
Has that been a day off or
Yeah,
half
there's
day
no,
or?
no, that's a full
That's
day
always
off.
been a day off. I couldn't recall. And so
Used to
that
be a
week,
half day.
pardon?
Years ago, it was a half day.
Years. and
That's
years.
what I thought. Okay. I always get mixed up between my work and school. 'Cause- yeah. So that week it's Monday's the half day and then proposal is the first for students.
Yes, correct.
I think based on the, based on the reasons that you're making a proposal, and that being a holiday week, it tends to, with a number of businesses, have a lot of, you know, kind of less people going in and working those days. Obviously, I can't speak across, you know, what all our industries and jobs our parents are in. But I do tend to agree with bringing in more, you know, as parents, other parents and teachers and others before kind of like laying it out, just because of the different options. It's not sort of a one size fits all. And, you know, I think for this, it makes sense what you have proposed. But I also have been on the other end where it's been proposed and it, you know, kind of creates a lot of chatter.
So for the half days, we did go from 4 to 3. We did reduce,
They were less.
we did reduce the number of half days, just wanna.
And strategically tried to space them, that where, you know, PD was important and it was kind of spread out across
Right.
across the year.
Right.
Doesn't the after school program offer,
Yeah.
take care during, maybe I use that all the time, I guess.
It does.
All the time.
Any other thoughts, questions? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the East Line Public School 2022-2023 calendar as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Laura is an aye.
Kate's
She's not,
she's not there.
not there. Yeah. Oh, she's in
There's a picture of
distance.
herself.
There's. Kate, did you, I don't know if you can hear us. We have a motion for the calendar. We're in approved.
No, it looks great. Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Close. Jamie and Candace. And abstain. Okay, motion passes.
I have a packed meeting on the 24th, so I will bring it, you know, to, we've got about 8 to 10 members that are part of that committee, so we'll definitely share it. But thank you very much.
Okay, now we move on to the discussion action items, finance, facilities and community. And we have a pool roof update for discussion. Is Chris leading that? Or-
Mr. Lund, yes, Shalon's here to kind of talk, we had, just to set the context, we had talked about a full roof replacement, some associated costs, and so kind of lead us to our next item as well. But Mr. Lund, we'll kind of turn it over to you to gather some of the information that you gather, and we'll go from there.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Make it loud, maybe a little louder.
No.
Louder.
Go ahead, Chris. Good. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello.
We
Now
can hear you.
me? Okay. I have a tiny, I thought I was seeing thumbs up, but I couldn't really tell. My screen's a little tiny here. So, hello, everyone. Good evening. So, as you recall from the last meeting, one of the pieces of information that you asked me to obtain as possible was the prospective cost of a roof replacement. So, I've talked with our architect a little bit more, Justin, who he was unable to be here tonight because of another meeting. But I reached out to Butler Buildings, which is one of the main manufacturers, or one of several, but one of the biggest in the U.S. that manufactures prefab buildings, standing seam roofs and whatnot. Spoke with them at length. They provided some information on materials, and then reached out to a couple builders and got some really rough numbers on what labor costs could be. Without doing a full takeoff, no one was going to give us, an actual cost. But based on that information, and as previously suggested, a new roof would probably be on the order of $500,000 at the low end, upwards to $6 million, and potentially even more. Once you get into, you tear it off, you find out there may be some more work that needs to be done. The new roof itself, just the materials, and that would only be the roofing material, just the roof panels, and the installation was going to be around $200,000 just for those materials. So it gives you an order of magnitude. For new construction, oftentimes the rule of thumb is you take the materials cost and you double it to get a basic price of what it could be. So, it's $400,000 there just for new construction, and we're doing a demo renovation where we're taking it off selectively and reinstalling. So, I think that 5 to 6 would be a pretty good number. Today's labor market is crazy, of course. So, we wouldn't want to do it this year because the prices are ridiculous. But assuming the numbers return to a more normal value, I would use that number for the purposes of discussion and decision making.
And that high of a number too, would have to obviously go in capital, and that would take us, project wouldn't happen this summer. It'd have to happen the following summer. So it'd be another year waiting to.
And,
So
and
just-
if I could also chime in just a little further discussion on, that's a big number, obviously, and I would shy away from that for a couple of reasons. First of all, we are, I think, on schedule to talk about the ad hoc facilities meeting, and I would, as your director of facilities, with everything else that we're looking at on the capital program, I would not put that project ahead of a lot of the other work. I think that is more important. I wouldn't want to tie up $500,000 on the roof at the aquatic center when we have some other things that are equally, if not more important. So I would just leave that as a thought in everybody's mind when we talk about this a little further.
Thanks, Chris. I know later on the agenda, we have a facilities committee, and that's the purpose of trying to form that to do a deeper dive into some of these items of this nature. But I don't know, if you engage in any discussion on the pool roof now, or that agenda item to take place and see what happens there, and maybe that be the spearhead for more conversation.
So maybe perhaps because it seems like there's FFO discussion in here, and if we put this ad hoc committee and agree to that, this might be something for that group to somehow tackle or
Instead of
discuss.
FFO.
With combined with
Yeah.
FFO. I think because it seems like it kind of hits both
Together.
pieces. And so maybe maybe we wait for that, and then we get to that agenda item, and then maybe we talk about having a combined group look at that. Any specific questions on the pool roof or? Okay.
Just a clarification. So,
Yeah.
and Chris, I appreciate you speaking up and making the point that there are other pressing issues as well. The current discussion is, the alternative is that initial proposal for roughly $80,000 to make the repair. Is that, because we had, I thought that kind of, there was gonna be an actual inspection where they came and cut a piece out and did that ever occur?
Yes, it did. So actually, the numbers that we had proposed were based on that post-structural evaluation.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, that, there were a couple numbers floated, but the 82, 83 was the highest of the ones that were floated as options.
Okay.
And of course, that's, the architect's estimate, so it could be higher. But that's for repair, and that particular one was for fastening from within the inside of the building, so we didn't have to punch holes through the exterior.
Also, just that reminder too, we've got that money down at the town, which is sitting for the roof. I think it's about 125,000 roughly. To put towards any project that's
So I guess to clarify, the fix is still on the table, right?
Yeah.
yes,
So-
one way or the other.
Yeah, so that's where the
That's
committee,
where I'm,
Yeah, it's where either.
okay, but are they still on schedule to come and talk to us and explain their proposal to us?
they explain.
Or did they
Yeah.
do it at an FFO or?
they
I don't
came-
recall them coming here.
Yeah,
Did I
We
miss a
went to
meeting?
the pool.
Yeah, we went to we walked over to the pool. They did come
Yeah.
came
once
back
already.
and
I must have missed a
maybe you
meeting.
missed that meeting. Yeah,
I don't
when that
remember
was,
that
it was
at
about
all.
2 months ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow, okay. I don't remember that at all.
Wait, what was it, a furlong?
Purling, yeah.
Furling,
Yeah.
whatever, I didn't know what that was.
With the phalanges
I
and
learned,
the screws and all.
Yeah.
Okay, I must.
I don't know, the fix is looking good to me. I just want to hear a little bit more for comparison, but
I don't recall ever missing a meeting, so I don't,
We can circle back on all that information too. Yeah.
I don't recall missing a meeting, so I'm gonna have to have some work done on my memory.
Jamie, it might have been if
I
you were
think it-
interested in
I think it was an
before the start of
FFO.
the meeting.
It wasn't a
I-
football meeting.
Okay, I didn't think I missed it at a
Oh, okay.
meeting.
it was only FFO, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you invited me to an FFO. That's what.
Because you
Okay,
were.
I'm like, I know I did.
If Bill was there, yeah. so that's right.
We separately invited you.
All right, so I did not
Okay.
miss a meeting,
Okay.
walking to
No.
the pool, perfect,
Okay.
okay, so it was just FFO.
Don't want you to go crazy on the
Well,
drive
I was
home.
seriously trying to remember when I missed a meeting.
No,
Oh,
we were
Jamie.
invited though, the extended, I remember.
Okay,
We'll talk and circle back. then,
yeah, so if we
doing
can,
another,
Yeah.
full board. Yeah.
okay, that would be good, thank you. Sorry, I knew my memory was messy, but
Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is a COVID-19 update.
Yeah, so wasn't sure, we had this on the agenda, wasn't sure what I was going to share or say. And, I think Scott was feeling the same way I was, about 3:15 this afternoon, we got an alert that the governor was gonna have a call at 4:15. So, and so I was a little late to AAA because I wanted to kind of hear what he said. So bottom line is right now, if you hadn't already heard, he's recommending and proposing, the mask mandate be lifted and optional as of the 28th of February.
And that was based on data.
I don't know what.
That's
that-
what I
mean,
heard.
Yeah, I think Department of Health
Yeah,
shared some
yeah,
information,
so,
they
yeah.
spoke, and it was kind of a tag team of.
So
of
that's
that.
science,
New
right?
Jersey.
Yeah, the
The
legislators need to agree to that, obviously, to move it past the 15th, because if they don't agree to it, then it ends on the 15th. But so the 28th, I guess, is the date. Department of Health is saying it would be up to locals. And based on metrics, we have no scale or no, number system per se as to what might be recommended through the Department of Health. I know this is not necessarily the recommendation of Ledgelight yet. I haven't seen, I know there's a statement that is supposed to be coming out from Ledgelight as well. And there's a council that the Connecticut Association of Public Health Directors, Steve Mansfield, sits on. So they were hoping for a little bit of a longer, like a 60-day extension. So I'm not sure what they'll come up with, but nothing, I've not seen anything yet.
So you're saying the first selectmen will make that decision, or the board of selectmen will make the decision?
No,
Or you?
no, Board of Ed and
We make.
We can make our decision
yes,
about what
we
want.
will
Okay.
make that, but there's so much more information we
Okay.
need as to, as to
Thank
how and when and why that decision would be.
Ken?
So that's, what I wanted to clarify. So we do have say.
Yes,
So we will.
you as a
be
board or us
voting.
as a district, because I would obviously.
No, I'm
wanna
asking as a
incorporate-
board. So we
Yeah,
will be coming to a vote here? Or no?
I'm gonna say yes. I think the board would need to.
Very
It's just,
good.
it's premature. Candace has to, what's gonna come down from CSDE. Again, nothing is completely writing. This is all verbal from what the governor stated. So stay tuned as to what more information comes forth from the Commissioner's Office of Education. And what Department of Health and Legislate will share with us. But at least it's.
So we only have one more meeting between now and that.
We have a
date.
meeting on that night, the 28th. Yeah, how about that?
To
So,
vote on what would then go into effect the next day.
well, we might not need to do anything if transmission numbers are low. Is it, we'll have to talk. We might need to have a special meeting to say, we're not doing masks. I honestly, I don't know yet. I think we need much more time to process this. And I don't think we should be making any decisions or putting out dates or anything yet.
I just have a quick question. If people want to continue, I know this sounds far-fetched, but I know it happens in other states. If someone feels better wearing a mask, we're not gonna penalize them or, what I'm saying is I don't want that to happen. I'll probably continue to wear my mask.
Yeah.
I think what
Yeah.
Scott ran out of time saying
Oh,
was that, if I had heard him as he was exiting, it's like, of the people surveyed, 80% of the teachers were still going to continue wearing masks
Okay.
after
Good.
the 28th is what I thought I heard. So.
We never take
and
that
I-
option away.
Yeah.
I,
okay,
I
good.
agree with that, but my concern is if we don't have some meeting or something before
We
the
might be-
28th, then we're gonna be in a position of the teachers walking in on that next day, finding out that we decided X, and then there's gonna be a bunch of unhappy teachers
No, they need to.
and possibly parents and whatever else too. So I think we need to,
Well, with the metrics going the way that they're going right now, or the cases, I should say, going down, and what they stated today, basically just that, unless they skyrocket back up,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any way around, whatever they produce or share, I think it's gonna become optional for mask wearing, but I don't know that for sure. That's the sense I got just from listening to the 20 minutes that I heard today.
Can you just clarify? So is that mask optional would be a state decision?
Local, it would be up to local, it would be local.
But you
so-
said with rates coming down,
Which
Yeah,
prompted.
what is the threshold that the
Right.
Department of Health is gonna, like, right now, every state or every town in our area is still in the red, other than I think one, I just heard today. So if you look at our metrics from this year to last year, it's a whole different, it's a whole different game. We're playing with such higher case numbers, but making decisions now off of that science. So I don't know what the threshold is gonna be from the Department of Health that says, we recommend you leave masks on if you're in the red or you're in the orange. That's what we don't know yet. So some sort of documentation will be
I
forthcoming.
watched 60 Minutes last night, and watched the healthcare worker crisis. You wouldn't be too excited
Oh my
about
God.
sending more people their way.
That was amazing. I saw it. Did anyone else see it?
so, well, let's.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay, you were
So I'm talking about the point that
Yeah.
it's still an issue.
It is still an issue.
So in
Absolutely.
terms of I think what would be helpful is for you to obviously talk to your superintendent committee and see what everyone is
Yeah,
trying to
we'll be
get some
doing-
collective
we'll be doing that
understanding
for
of what.
sure.
they're
And
thinking.
legislate.
And then speaking of Ledge Light and our consultants and whatever, our health gets up is, are there thresholds and that a metric or something that we can, because I think if this was January 5th or something like that, and Omicron was going like crazy, you might say, wow, we may want masks on. And now we're seeing, we're past that, and it seems like it's kind of a cliff, and it is going down pretty quickly. But maybe there's times not to, but I think we just need information. I think
We need
we need
information.
information. And then to Bill's
Yep.
point is, should we schedule tentative meeting? Maybe it's a Zoom or something if we can't get together, but a special meeting before the 28th and try to find some time, maybe at least, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but at least a few days or something in front of that, so we can get together and just talk about that one issue.
And then have an agenda, that way people can come to speak.
Yeah.
I also think that,
Right.
that you should put something out that says, the state is going this way, a reminder, the school may or may not be requiring masks, we're going to be evaluating this at a special meeting or something based on input from Ledge Light and, and so forth before, so that folks don't just assume, oh, the governor
Oh,
said
yeah.
this today, so none of the kids show up with masks on that day, and we had decided something else
Yeah.
too. I think we need to.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get information out again. We'll start processing through this, tomorrow morning and then start the next steps of communication out, planning, prep, meeting, potentially date set. So,
Yeah, look for data because it's President's Weekend the week before.
yep.
So we probably have to shoot for, what days are we're closed Monday, Tuesday?
Yep, 21st, 22nd, I think it's.
Okay, so maybe the 23rd, 24th, we can, maybe like the 23rd.
Yeah, or even if we know or have information the week before.
The week
even,
before, yeah, the
we can look at
17th
the
or
17th.
18th, yeah.
Which is next week.
Maybe we put a couple,
Which is next week,
Yeah, which is next week. So-
can we put a couple placeholders in for us and see when people are available, and then we
Yeah.
can see where we are,
Yeah.
so.
Be easy.
And it could be
to
Zoom, whatever, too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Zoom
let's
is
do.
fine. I think Zoom is fine.
The problem is getting information from the Department of Health and
Yes.
and the state. That, what always happens, and this has been every time the governor makes an announcement and then follow up, everything in writing comes out. We don't want to act until we've got what's in writing as to what
Sure.
because we can then be circling back to change something that we put in place.
I think,
because of-
Lee, do you want to go to, I think that Shazee was next, actually.
Yeah, no, I totally hear obviously that we need to wait for information and I can only imagine how frustrating that is. At the same time, I want to underscore, I think what Bill said very eloquently is like, we need to over communicate because this is going to cause a lot of feelings for
Yep.
students, for
Yeah.
teachers, for parents. And so I think even in the absence of information, having some communication plan so that folks feel like they're in the loop and they know what to expect when, even though this is like a 2-week time frame, I still think it's going to be really important.
Yeah, this was not expected, but he said. it tonight.
And I know.
I don't
Not
know.
expected.
I kind of expected
I
it,
had
to be
heard-
honest with you. He's
well,
going into another.
we had heard through the
election
grapevine
cycle.
some
I'm
different
sorry.
things,
He
and
wants this off
this-
his plate. I would like to add, though, that there's an informal poll on what was just stated. So I don't know if you want to consider putting out a poll to your parents. It might
A
be.
poll to identify whether you want to wear a mask or
Absolutely.
not.
Sure, sure.
Maybe.
You know,
Making
and that it
such a
is an
mix on
option,
that.
certainly. I mean, that way you have
Just
some,
the Teacher data, right?
because right now you have,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's,
you have
yeah,
that.
Scott's gonna
So
share that,
it might
and
be,
I'll send it to you
rather
this week.
than not, and someone saying, well, you didn't ask me, right? Right?
Potentially.
Or no? Okay, yeah.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, I got to process through our next steps, so. But that's, I appreciate the input for sure.
Bill?
Two other questions. Jeff, when is your meeting with the other superintendents? Is that something that's going to happen between now and the time we're talking about meeting?
Yeah, we'll have another regional call coming up this Friday.
This Friday, okay, so that's coming up soon.
Yep.
The second point, and maybe you want to have this conversation during that phone call, but this is this year. And if, Eric was talking about metrics, like what numbers, what transmission rates are going to be the point that we mask up again next year? And what, are we going to put something in place for next year that says, are we going to wait for the governor's phone call, or we as a school district are going to say, version, whatever the next variant is, and it's spreading, okay, based on 2 years of experience with COVID, we should be doing masks, whether the state gets their act together or not at this number. I don't know.
Really hoping this is not the direction that the government is going to go. What's going to happen now is, you're going to have the wave of up and down. And the second you tell, kids and you go, okay, masks are off, and the numbers start climbing again. Oh, wait a minute, put them back on. We're going to be, it's going to be that much more problematic.
But we've got to remain flexible.
You do, but trying to get, kids to get, put them back on, wear them now, it's going to be a challenge. We've already had a challenge, all year long, with trying to keep, kids wearing a mask. Now that I'm not wearing, it sends a mixed message too, which is frustrating, so. But that's my own venting on.
I think we've been operating with gathered experiences, evolving data, a lot of kind of informal input, and just kind of Googling, see, and just say any updates. And I think that one of the things that when decisions are made, we will need to, we'll be operating under some level of ambiguity, like has been all along, and to the point of metrics. The DPH will be issuing guidance to local districts, help them navigate these decisions, but will not be issuing concrete metrics as far as positivity or vaccination rates. So, I think we can be gathering, but there will be there'll be gray area. I think we've cut. Clearly.
I have another thought too. All right, so let's say, we decide that masks are optional, right? Now, a kid comes to school wearing a mask, another kid comes to school without a mask. Now there's the potential for like some sort of, well, you're wearing a mask, you're not wearing a mask, whatever. So now the kid who's, and then the kid who's wearing a mask, maybe they've got a compromised family member at home or something. Exactly right. And now we've got to have our administrators get out to the teachers and students that, when we do go to mask optional, respect as a kind of a guideline for the culture overall. We need to teach kids how to be respectful of why someone might be wearing a mask and why someone might not be wearing a mask or whatever. But I think because that could lead into some other ugliness going on too.
Absolutely. Yep. We're gonna battle that for sure, and we got to get ahead of it as much as we can.
Yeah.
February 28th will be here like that.
Yeah. So it's going to come, and all of a sudden there's going to be the war.
So in terms of next, so maybe in our weekly update after talking with the superintendents this Friday, maybe you can give us an update, but also look for some time on the calendar next week and the following week, because we don't know when we're going to know. Just so we all have it in our calendar and have placeholders for a meeting for us to come together. And then in terms of the communication broader.
Oh, yeah, we'll be sending out.
I was just commenting what happened today.
That's all I can say. Into what we plan to do. You can't get into anything we plan to do because until I have guidance from the Department of Health that states in writing. These are we follow that to the T the last 2 years. We're not gonna deviate.
So it sounds like we will have some decision making ahead of us around this issue, and there, in addition to that, and I think it's been alluded to, I think we do need to kind of consider sort of the strategic, plan, because it won't be a one and done.
Yeah.
And what is that going to look like? How do we want to sort of structure that?
Okay. More to come on this.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wish I had real time update.
Apologize.
Okay, we'll move on to easier issues, maybe. No, the proposed budget for 2022-2023.
Just timeline wise, we have tonight, and then we have the 28th for the public hearing, as well as a special meeting to follow up to that for potential adoption of the budget. So we've got a lot of feedback. I appreciate feedback we received, from Flanders parents. And we've gone back and kind of looked at that grade 3 class. There is a way that we could hold back a teacher at Flanders and not send one over to Lily B, just to kind of speak to that matter first. Lily B has 4 kindergarten teachers slated potentially. We left all the kindergartens the same. They had a kind of a higher unusual amount this year. We don't know if they'll need 4. They could need 3 next year. That would free up a teacher at Lily B to kind of take that slot that's needed. Hence, we can keep that teacher back at Flanders and cover that grade 3 class, which put those class sizes from 20.6 down to around 15.5. Aligns it a little bit better too with both where Lily B and Flanders are at grade 3. And again, I agree that cohort of students has had some years. So I think that's important, and we've heard that. So I think this summer, we've done in the past, we could obviously be tracking kindergarten numbers all through the rest of the year and monitoring them. We could come back together, and if we need to initiate bringing forward another teacher over at Lily B, or just transferring and moving that K teacher, so there'll be 3 at Lily B into the appropriate class, we can do that. So that could work. So
Candace,
I'll put that out there first for.
Thank you. Yeah, so no, I want to thank you, actually. I mean, I think that we've had incredibly great feedback from our parents on this one, and I want to thank you for listening to some of my comments at the last meeting, just to, ensure that we are taking a look at and being cognizant of the specific challenges in different cohorts, because that's what we should be doing. We should really be, and trying to adhere to the guidelines that we essentially put in place, right? So I really like that idea. So thank you very much.
Bill?
I just wanted to also put I was thinking about numbers and class sizes, and I know that we did some consolidation at the middle school, and class numbers went up there. And the same thing is happening potentially at some of the high school classes, the numbers are going up. And we look at those numbers at the middle school. When we were looking at it, we were looking at class sizes going, I forgot what the numbers were, from 17 or 18 to 21, 22 or something to that effect. And we're comparing that to elementary school, and we're saying, well, we certainly don't want our middle school numbers to be lower than our elementary school. And by no means do I don't disagree with that. I want small class sizes in the elementary school, and I agree with that 100%. But we're not comparing apples to apples when we're talking about that, because if you look at a course load for a middle school or high school teacher, you're looking at them going from, let's say, 74 students that they're interacting with, 74 families, 74 papers getting graded, or whatever the case may be, to 90 something. So that's a over 25% increase in workload for those middle school or high school teachers when those class numbers go up. So it's not you're looking at, oh, it's just going, they're only getting 5 more kids. No, they're getting 5 times the number of sections they have. So that's the workload is significant increase. So I just think that those are not the same things. It's easy to look at a class size when you're putting class size together, but it's not just that. It's families you're interacting with, number of students you're interacting with. So I'm always for keeping class sizes down across the board, but by all means, the elementary school takes priority.
And not to leave Nyack Center out either. I mean, their numbers are a little bit higher at those lower grade levels too. I think we need to watch those very closely. But I think, there is an option in play that, and we've heard, from Flanders, again, that cohort of students has battled over the years.
Yep.
So I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective on that class who's currently second grade. That was first grade, that was kindergarten when COVID hit.
Yep.
So halfway through kindergarten.
Yep.
They got sent home to be taught by their parents.
That's right.
And then in first grade, they had hybrid, so
Yep.
they were half being helped with their parents and they were half in school.
And that
then-
data
then
is
they've
showing.
got this year where they still kind of going home because people have COVID. So that group of second graders, who will be third graders next year, have never, ever, ever had
A
a
normal-
full year of learning. Either Flanders, Niantic, Lily B, across the world, they've never had a full year of learning. So I am in favor of doing anything we can to help keep these numbers across the board at an advantageous level for these kids, because these kids have been pushed aside and they've never had a year of learning. They don't know what it looks like.
A normal
A normal year of learning. They don't even know what it looks like.
Yeah, they don't.
So I'd like to give them what they need to get where they need to be. And that's my thoughts on that.
That's good to hear. This recommendation is there, yeah.
Are we still cutting 3 teachers?
Yes, yeah, there's no change at the middle school level at this point. I wouldn't know where to put them, Marion. The certification issue comes forward too. We're still hoping through attrition. Again, it's position versus body. You know, we were trying to save, bodies. We've got, a recommended Spanish cut. We're trying to work on that one as well to save, to save that piece. So it's still in play and trying to save. And if somebody else retires, now we're saving a body, but the position wise, I think that we'd have to study what, because you mentioned, other positions for them. I wouldn't necessarily know right now or thinking about next year where those positions would be under their certification. That's the trick.
I'll send you an idea.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Big question is, do we have like an overarching, like, account for the budget that, giving us money, this is what we're delivering for in terms of an accountable outcome? Do we have that?
Yeah, I think we've got multiple outcomes. It kind of derives around that one slide that we showed that had those 5 areas. Obviously, your continued SEL work, DEI work, continued tech integration, the coaching components that we've been working hard at this year and have gone very, very well. Those pieces need to continue. We're at a 4.59 right now, and where that's going to go as well. So we're gonna have to come back to the table and potentially have some more conversations around that number. And, once we start working with the board.
Last time those outcomes are mostly down like the comment level. Do we have
Pathways
those
is in there as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
do we have some outcomes up to the high school level?
Yep, the pathways component is the first and foremost one, as well as MTSS. Working on those components with some great things, having those 2 certified teachers at the high school that have been working this year and making some great strides with intervention. Yeah. So, outside of that, if there's I didn't receive, any other specific the components. I think I mentioned we're continuing to work with the Board of Finance and the Board of Finance Chair Denise Hall. I want to credit her for for reaching out, and she we met with her and had a great conversation. Also, she had asked for a little bit of data on our ARP funding, so we're working on that today. So we're going to send that over to her. We'll send that to you as well, so you are copied on whatever we're sharing with the Board of Finance. Too.
Can you remind me on what our deadline date is to pass the budget?
That's a good question.
I
You
think
can't go
by the
any longer than
28th.
20. It can't
The
go any longer than
28th,
28.
is it the 28th?
The town was.
I can't remember and I don't really feel like.
Yeah,
following the
I'm
charter.
trying to catch up with Kevin Siri to see when, and I'm not sure, Ann, if you know.
I think you were coming, he told us, I thought you were coming 23rd, presenting
Well,
to us.
I tried to reach back out to him,
Yeah.
and then we haven't connected because I'd be sharing the superintendent's budget at that point. I would not be sharing the Board of Ed's budget. So I think
It has to be
we,
before that.
it really,
After that.
yeah, it's gotta be after the 28th for us to come down to the Board of Selectmen and
Oh,
and Board of
okay.
Finance. Yeah, so,
After the 28th,
yeah,
okay.
so I'll try Kevin again, tomorrow, to see if we can connect on a date, but,
We have a special meeting tomorrow night, so I'll tell them you want it after. It has to be after the
Yeah,
meeting.
otherwise I'm sharing my budget, not the Board of Ed's budget.
Got it. Okay, great.
So then my second comment after when is the deadline date is, I personally would like us to vote after the public hearing so we can hear
Yes.
from the
Yeah,
public.
yes, we have to. Yeah, that's the plan.
But the 28th kind of, it's tough if they're both on the same day. So hopefully we can pass it on the 28th, I guess. That was just my thought. Sorry. I didn't realize it was so close.
Yeah. February's moving quick. What happened on the 28th, that's for sure. So.
Well, thanks, Jeff, and I think that was, seems like a really good solution, so appreciate you and the team coming up with that. Why don't we move forward to the next topic, which is, it is just discussion, but the Board of Ed Ad Hoc Facilities Committee. Jeff, did you want to start?
So this, yeah, I can do a little bit and then
Okay.
if we jump in, we had the idea of, and Chris Lund was involved in some of these discussions, with the pool, we've got a lot of other facility items, especially up, at the high school now, the elementaries, have it done, just to have an opportunity for a committee of sorts to kind of come and have some conversations about those items and bring them back to the full board as well, as we continue to talk about capital, specific capital items. So hence, that was the idea behind formulating, drafting up a small short charter, as we've done in the past for every other ad hoc committee, formulating the ad hoc committee, and then being able to have that committee report back to the board as we've done with some of the other committees.
Yeah, so I thought that maybe that if, Bill, if you're okay, if you and Jeff maybe could come up with a short charter for what that committee could be, and then we move forward with an ad hoc committee with the I don't think, probably 2 people, maybe 3 the most, in terms of that. And that's what I was thinking, but open to people's thoughts and ideas for this. Thoughts, questions?
Does it make sense to have a committee of sorts, because again, there's going to be quite a few CIP items that are coming forward, so trying to spread those out.
I think it makes sense in terms of having a dedicated group of folks to focus on that.
Just they can collect all the data ahead of time and bring it in.
Yeah.
We'll synthesize it and bring it in.
Kate, you have a question?
Laura and Kate and Chris has got his hand up. Chris, why don't you go and then we'll just get Laura and Kate's.
Yeah. So Chris,
I just wanted to add one more point about the discussions when we had them. Part of the reasoning, and that, what made me think of it is Ms. Kelly up there. In addition to regular capital items, one of the things I think that this committee would be charged with is looking a little bit longer term at bigger projects such as, there's discussion, we need a new high school, or we need, a whole new wing for X, Y, or Z. And I think some of those longer term discussions, in addition to, year-to-year capital, would be one of the things that the committee would be looking at. And just one other point to make, just a reminder that although we talked a lot about buildings, there's a lot of other infrastructure as well that needs care and watering, such as baseball fields, soccer fields, pavement, piping, and all those other things that we take for granted. So I think that the smaller committee would be able to consider those things better, so that when we do bring the capital program, or when the committee or the board starts looking at those things, the better informed to make those decisions. That's all.
great, thanks, Chris. And I think I heard him volunteering, helping to write the charter. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I did.
Well,
I did.
Kate, did you have a question? Sorry, it's hard to see.
I really didn't. I'm just listening.
Okay, thanks. And Laura? Nothing? Okay, thanks. Any other thoughts or comments?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on.
I'll start working on
Yeah.
that. Bill and Chris. And again, if anybody else is interested, let me know. Go from there.
So that ends the discussion action item portion of the agenda, and we move on to administration reports. And Jeff.
All right, two items of particular interest I just want to share. So going back and forth, a lot of different dates, and a lot was based on John Wilson, but I think we finally have solidified March 7th, Monday, for Tim Hagan's ceremony, pool naming. The plaque will be in, that's what we were mostly waiting for. The sign is just about done. So reset, that's a board meeting night. So we did it at 5:30 and had a reception, and we could just walk over, and I think it'd be easy for everybody. We just wouldn't have a subcommittee meeting that day, obviously. So it seemed to work hopefully the best. It works for Tim and his family, which would be great. So let's go. We'll start pushing out invites and getting that situated.
That's great.
Photographer.
Oh, yeah, we'll wanna, yeah, exactly. We'll reach out to the day. Maybe somebody.
Yeah, we have students.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Get some students.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. We've got a couple other little surprises.
Oh,
too
nice.
we're Working on, so, say it publicly, but
Yeah.
So.
Nothing
plan-
They won't be surprised.
They won't be surprised. The plan on 3/7. The other piece, trying to work through have the Connecticut, the Governor's Council, and Barry's helping out with this. So thank you, Barry's got some connections with the Governor's Council on the grants, trying to see if we can get some sort of grant funding to help us out with some continued pathways work. So Barry's got a meeting Friday with some folks up there, and we maybe make some inroads. We were kind of told that because of our wealth status in
Our
the town,
demographic, yeah.
it's very challenging, and basically that we shouldn't necessarily bother applying unless we can get on the back of another organization or somebody that can. But that's something we're looking at. So Barry's gonna work on that.
Is that why we weren't on the list of, people?
The
could-
town
right.
census, there's a listing that we're not on. So, but maybe there's some workarounds.
So they were looking at our financial data to basically just say that we didn't qualify.
Yeah, they use the town census.
And so we're
the
discriminated
census
against.
list in East Lyme didn't make the cut. So, but again, there could be some workarounds with collaborative approaches. And there's where, hoping Barry can maybe make some inroads with some folks he knows. So we're in close touch. We're working with Annalise as well. And we'll see where it, where it goes. But some, a lot of good movement that David Sewell needs to make in that area. So.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for
Yeah.
stepping forward and doing that.
And that's it. I'll make sure you'll get updates, whatever I find out too about this whole piece of the February 28th date, even maybe outside the weekly update. And I'll be sharing information as I find out. So,
That's good. Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
yeah.
Annalise?
So could you ever just a little bit about the US meetings?
Yeah, so what happened, I was, and thanks for every other meeting will bring up kind of a DI update or report. But I know Brendan, our student rep, had talked a little bit about that, and at least put some stuff in the weekly update about what took place. So there was about 7 students who reported out on their personal stories during, that was the assembly that was done at the high school level. Kids did a great job. There was 2 groups, so we had 2 grade levels in the North Gym with the 7 students sharing their stories, and then the other group was an advisory, and then they flipped. They had a great advisory lesson that was going on.
Nice.
And at least I walked around and got into some of the advisory classes with high school administration. Deb, anything that you want to add to that? I mean, I thought it was fantastic.
We've received great feedback from the students about it. There's been, there was a lot of further conversations. Some of them stopped by our offices to chat about it. Overall, I think it was a really good day for everybody. And actually, we had an advisory the next day, and there was follow-up conversation there too. So we're all a very positive experience.
I like the fact that there was space in between too. I know it was supposed to happen earlier, but it brought back around the issues that we had in the fall to bring the best. So again, those things can't be forgotten and swept under the rug. So they did a great job bringing those pieces up, and now that work needs to continue. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you, Jeff.
We're gonna try to provide a space and time for some of those voices to be heard on the March 11th PD Day too.
Nice,
So
okay.
bringing teachers around to hear stories and think about, their experiences as teachers, how to, support conversations in the classroom that are very many times challenging and uncomfortable. So we also have someone coming in to provide a professional development on that exact topic.
Okay.
So we really want to provide an opportunity for the students' voices to be heard beyond just that assembly. They
I
were
like that. Yeah.
very powerful stories that we need to, shine light on and use them as we grow
Yeah.
as a district in that area. So I'm super, super excited and very, very proud of the members of that committee that made that happen.
Sure.
I think it's really powerful when our students are the
Mhm.
drivers
Mhm.
behind some of these changes. It's really truly when things happen with fidelity. And
Yeah.
so kudos to the admin team at the high school for supporting it. I think it was just a great day overall, really a special time to celebrate for us here in East Lyme.
You could have heard a pin drop in the.
Yeah, yeah.
When I listen to you, it's a great indication that the purpose of the whole strategy was to develop students' capacity and agency.
That's
to
it.
Advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion. And
Right.
what you're reporting back is this was not action for adults.
No,
These were efforts to actually develop students' capacity and agency
right.
to take on these issues. So I think that's a marvelous example of the work that you guys are doing on this.
Yeah. Yeah, it serves as a great example of, other things we could be doing as well. Yeah.
Just in addition, the peer delivery, that is
Mhm.
key. And
Yeah.
we've been talking about that for years. And I think that oftentimes, unfortunately, adults will back away from that,
Mhm.
right? Because you can't control it. And
Right.
that's the best part. That's where kids are going to really tune in when it is someone that really can be relatable to them. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up?
Oh, how do we follow up from that? So, couple of things I'll just highlight again from my update. I submitted the PEGpedia grant. And so that would be a really great opportunity for us to update our technology. I believe they're voting on that the end of March, so I'll keep the board posted with regards to progress on that. The vertical curriculum leaders meeting that we had last Thursday was really successful. It was the first time since pre-COVID, really, we've been together in the same room. And so the focus was really about ensuring that we are vertically aligned and what are the steps we need to do as leaders in that work to ensure that it happens. Focusing really a lot around the 4-5 transition and the 8-9 transition. I heard a lot of that conversation at the table. There'll be folks coming around for further conversation in March. And lastly, I'll just say in the way of assessment, we're really taking a close look at our universal assessment system, because at this point, it's actually not universal. And so we really need to look at what are we using to screen students in literacy and math, and ensuring that it's the same across buildings, and then the language can be understood also vertically. So we'll be bringing the leaders around the table to start conversations around that. What do we have? What works? What's out there that we maybe want to explore further? There's some assessments that are aligned to the new legislation for literacy. We need to pay close attention to that. So those conversations have started, but that will be a process that will not, those are decisions we don't make overnight. We want to take our time and make sure we have variety of stakeholder voices around the table. So that's work that's just getting started. You guys have any questions for me?
No, just a thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Emily. Mariana.
I don't.
Budget.
Budget.
So.
Thanks, Mariana. Okay, moving to committee reports. We had a policy meeting.
No, the triple.
Yeah, we had AAA with policy.
Last week.
last week. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay,
I
yeah,
can skip.
I was going in chronological. We can go to AAA first, Bill.
Sure. So tonight was just devoted strictly to taking a look at the elementary school homework guidelines. A lot of talk was, or the talk was centered around really how they got to where they are with the guidelines. And actually, prior to the meeting, Barry presented us with a bunch of information for review as well, which fortunately was in line with much of what the committee's efforts were. So we were happy to see that the homework guidelines are backed on, or backed with current understanding of good practice for what's right for students of this age. Terms that kept getting thrown out was getting students to self-regulate, and student agency was thrown about quite a bit, where kids are really driven to learn by understanding what the purpose of what they're doing, and having some self-initiated guidelines for that too. So that was good. Yeah, I don't know, did Barry or anyone else who was there want to add? Did I don't know if did I miss something there? I think we're on our, I guess also just so that you're aware, it's going to be kind of we're going to ease into this with a soft rollout, so that not every teacher is going to be handed or be required to follow this guidelines on some date. We're going to kind of ease into it, test it, and reevaluate what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is, because you had asked around the survey response rate, so we did send them out, that survey back out in weekly sways. We got Jamie's response. I think from that one, I think we also created a pop-up on the elementary landing page. So it was like, hey, look at me.
Yes, yep.
But unfortunately, it didn't really result in much additional numbers, responses. I think we went from like 14 to 17.
Okay,
So
well, I thank you
Glad I
for
felt
trying,
We tried.
right?
We
I mean,
tried.
I do, and this is actually, and again, it's so important here in our district is that we have conversations, we give ideas, and give the opportunity for feedback, because it is important, right?
Right.
So now I can say, and we all can say, that we are trying to put out, right? To gather input, right? Because it is important. And when I had first gotten some feedback of, well, geez, I didn't have the opportunity, or I had given feedback, but it wasn't taken. So, I mean, I'm not there at every meeting, but I want to trust that those things are being encompassed, right? So you're going to be looking at the data as you slowly move into this, right? So I think as we're moving into this, taking the initiative to put that out also, not just to teachers, students, but also the parents, to kind of find out how things are going, on their end, and what they're seeing, and knowing what's working and what's not, right? As you
And
kind of go
actually,
forward.
since the guidelines have been put out and we got feedback, I haven't put a revised set of guidelines out. So it would make sense that a parent thought that their voice wasn't heard, because I actually haven't updated the draft. So this was sort of the last piece of the puzzle, was to get some voice from AAA. And now we'll go back and I'll bring the suggested edits back to the standards-based, the report card committee, and discuss, to what extent do we want to provide, some additional resources. So I know that there's some families who really enjoy using some of those electronic platforms as a place to practice. Well, students go home with their devices every night. That option doesn't go away for families. It's an option. It's not a requirement. So
Right,
we're
they're
really
not, because I've heard different on that. And clearly, we're in the high school now, so they're coming home all the time with theirs. But at the elementary, I am learning that some are staying and they're utilizing them at school, but not at home. That's what
So
I'm
these are,
getting.
I think these are things we really need to work out, and through the guidelines,
Mhm.
you know, we can clearly identify roles and responsibilities. It does say in the guidelines that students will take their devices home every night to charge them. That's a part of
Okay.
being a responsible student, is that that is their homework with their device according to our guidelines. Now, if they want to, if parents want to put them on their, you know, iReady to practice.
Yeah.
Their computer is home. They
I got
can do that. That is a
That kind
choice.
of goes into actually getting students prepared as they go through the ages, because what does happen is you will be required once you hit,
Right.
you know, maybe fourth grade, but into the middle school for certain,
Right.
right? And then the high school, definitely.
Right, so part of the,
So,
yeah,
I got
the
it,
expect,
yeah.
it's sort of that executive functioning piece about being a responsible student and
Sure.
ensuring that your device is charged for the next day.
Mhm. I wish we had done that with like organizational skills for like students, because when kids got to a certain level, they were like, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
And I have to keep a calendar, I have to do this, I have to do that,
Right.
because, and then I actually remember having that conversation, right? Because it prompts questions as you're going through, and they're like, that's a good idea. I'm like, right? And even changing classes,
Mhm.
because kids were like, what do you mean, right? So to kind of get them ready.
Yeah.
The other pieces, I just want to double back on it, was circle back, I guess, on the parent advisory council part of it, because that council is fantastic, and it does give you the opportunity to get feedback from an already kind of established group of folks, in addition to surveys.
Yeah, and
kind of
we
stuff,
did
and
put
I
it,
think that you did,
we
right?
did, and they provided us with some useful feedback
Right.
that sort of, you know, and we talked about that even today around, you know, what are the resources for families that are accessible to them to support them with the guidelines.
Got it.
So those are all things that are sort of next steps in the work.
All right, thank
Yep.
you, Annalise.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Moving on to policy. For the meeting.
We had a meeting on the 2nd. The minutes are attached. We met with our attorney and talked about the legality of 16 policies. They are varied in whether or not they're coming to the board and or staying for review. So
More to come on.
more to come. But that was all 2000s we reviewed. The next up is 3000.
Can I just say this, we're cleaning them up.
You're doing a great job.
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful.
Yes, kudos.
Less is
Jill,
more, less is
Elisa,
more.
and-
You guys have been great,
and
prepared,
Jamie,
ready to
yeah.
go.
Less is
You're
more.
like, what? I like it.
Extra support for
Prepared and ready to
5,000,
go.
6,000, so.
Yeah, wait till we get to the 5
Yeah,
and
we might
6 and
need
3.
to enlist some support.
Jamie's a taskmaster.
You are. Okay, moving to board comments and future agenda items.
So I have parent feedback on the half a day early dismissal snow day schedule. I think we all kind of forgot that we have a lot of half a days during the year. And that when we had the early dismissal the other day, we all kind of just spaced out and forgot that we have a half a days. But is there a way to make a half a day schedule available to parents that they can easily access? Instead of trying to scroll through 15,000 different tabs to find it on the website?
Should be able to put it right on the.
And then like the high
Calendar,
school, because when they have a
Yeah.
half a day, their whole schedule switches. If we could put up a schedule for the high school kids that they can easily access.
Oh, you mean the bell schedule? Or are
Well,
you
not
just
not
talking
even a
about
bell
the?
schedule, but like, for the high school kids, I get asked all the time, what does the schedule look like at the high school in half a day? And I have no clue. I don't, because I can't find one. But even when we have a half a day, it's hard to find for some people. Like I print it out, so it's on my fridge, but not all people print it out. So there's like 30 steps to find the schedule on our website, if you don't already know where to go.
Okay.
So that is my first comment. And then my second comment is the Miracle League is going to have their gala. It's going to be on April Fool's Day at the casino at Mohegan. If anybody would like to go or want tickets, let me know and I'll get you set up. We are going to hopefully, I don't know what's going on with the baseball strike and all that stuff, but hopefully we'll have some baseball players there. It's going to be dependent on what their strike happens. And then the Rotary Gala is May 7th, I believe. It is a Kentucky Derby theme. And they're giving an award to Bill Vassetto. And their proceeds are coming to the Miracle League. So if you can't go to the gala, go to the Rotary.
We're gonna recognize Ann Daigle that night too.
Oh, are you really?
Nice.
Oh, that's nice.
So awesome.
Yeah.
But those 3 things are in the work, 2 things are in the work. So if you need any more information, Jeff knows Rotary and I know we're doing, so.
Thanks, Jim.
That's it.
Thanks, Jeremy. Other candidates?
I just want to make a suggestion that you can sync your calendar to any of the calendars off of the district website. It is kind of challenging, but you can do it. And it is very beneficial. So if it's elementary, I do all, right? That because I want to know what everybody's doing. It keeps me connected. It's just my way of doing things. But some people, they only want to know what the high school's doing because they've got kids there, or the elementary school, the middle school. You could do athletics. You know, there's lots of different things that you could do. You can do our meetings and stuff too. So it's been a very useful resource for me, and it is 100% great.
I'll have to, I don't know if I'm tech savvy enough to figure
Yeah,
that
I
out.
can help, I think, because there was one certain way, and then I was trying to help somebody else navigate it, and they figured out a different way, but it is doable.
Thanks, Candace.
Yeah.
Barry?
2 things. One, I want to circle back to the discussion we had in the AA committee and try to emphasize how very important it was that we came up with the idea of setting a goal of developing students agency as learners as an outcome of that. Now, I think it's very important because it sets the idea that we as the board should do everything we could to get behind this idea and migrate it through the entire curriculum. Such that we as a district become known as the district that develops students agency as learners. And I emphasize that very strongly because that could be one of the most powerful outcomes of an educational experience for students in our district. And I think I'm always trying to think of like how are we going to do the very, very best possible for the students? And if we could get behind that as a board and focus all our resources and focus and cohesive effort on doing everything possible to develop students agency as learners. I think it's an important discussion that we have to have and an issue that we could consider getting strongly behind, to support the district's efforts on that. And also the related discussion to that if that's going to be our major outcome, what is the theory of practice that we're going to get behind for the district in terms of the process to get there? And we can begin the discussion with issues related to the forms of cognition that we want to advocate as the theory that's going to help us best develop the agency of our students and learners. So I think that's can't emphasize how important I think is a topic for us to put on our agenda as soon as possible and marshal all our resources to get behind that to support that effort throughout the district. Second, when Jeff was going over the work with the DEI, it's such an excellent example of how the board can work of setting strategy and then continually bringing it up for discussion at each of our board meetings as showing like how we set a strategy, we said something we wanted to do, and we're continually revisiting it and monitoring, watching it, supporting, growing, and developing. And that process kicked out I looked at the rest of our agenda. The discussion we could also have is how we could shift our agenda at our meeting from basically a reactive thing to here's something that's happened, we have to discuss about it, to a much more proactive process where we said we have to set board goals and that the agenda for each of our meetings should be focused and anchored in our board goals and discuss how are we making progress on that goal? Is that still a goal that we want to work on? How are we measuring our progress on that goal? And how can we basically improve the processes that, the district could advocate, could follow to help us achieve the goals that we've set, for the board and for the district.
Thanks, Barry. Lisa.
So I have the Viking saga in front of me like we all do, and I just couldn't help but notice what's on the front page. About overachieving becomes the new norm. Wasn't able to read every word as we're sitting here, but a couple of the points that have been made are that there's inner pressure these kids are feeling, that it's not necessarily anyone, pushing them. And I think as a district, we've seen a lot of engagement on this topic, right? I think the mental health through the pandemic has really become sort of front and center. I know that the high school had a speaker that kind of addressed, some of this, but I think it's something we need to kind of keep our eye on, and here is yet another example. Absolutely. Peer pressure, college pressure.
There's a speaker on vaping tomorrow night.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention
Saw that.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
Yeah,
it's
you
a-
published it
through
this
the
lady.
Zoom link.
Yeah.
I was remiss in not linking that letter into my update last Friday. Did I? I apologize if I didn't.
No, I think that it was.
Did I link that in? It had all the dates of the upcoming?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
no, it's listed, and I'm just gonna add, the Youth Coalition has hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah Furman,
Sarah
listen,
has
she's
been
just been
phenomenal.
fantastic. Lots and
She's
lots of
got
different information
great ideas and
and
great energy.
opportunities. So
It's been
the
really-
engagement, it's really been great.
Yeah.
So,
Very good.
Vicky
I
Adams
agree.
is tomorrow night.
I just have two more I forgot about. Our retreat. I know we had pushed it off.
Yeah.
Do we have a really scheduled date?
Not yet, Eric, something Eric and I.
Yeah, we need to talk about for, probably for March, maybe.
Okay, and then my next one is I don't know, I would like to see if we could do it. I don't know if there's interest from the rest of the board or from the Board of Finance, but if we could get back to that schedule that we had of one of us going to Board of Finance meetings, I thought that was really beneficial for the town and for us.
I've been going
I know
every other
with-
month.
I know with COVID, you pushed it, you
Yeah.
stopped doing it,
It'd be great.
but
Yeah.
I think it would be a good idea if we could try to get that back going again.
Maybe Jackie can send the dates. and
Yep.
we can
Definitely.
Volunteer.
Regular
Great.
meetings,
Yeah.
not there's
Yeah.
3,000 budget meetings, just, I want to clarify that. Sorry, I don't. I know Rick, you used to be there, but that was a lot of meetings.
For comments. Laura?
Can you hear me?
Uh,
I can get louder. Okay. How's that? Can you hear me?
Sort of.
Can anybody hear me?
Just a little. Brad, can we, hold on one second.
Oh, I see your
But
headphones.
talk loud, Lauren, we'll.
Okay.
Talk loud, okay.
There you
go.
go.
That's it. Gotcha.
I just wanted to express my appreciation to all of you this evening. I mean, the collaboration was so respectful and purposeful and meaningful and productive. I'm inspired, and I'm going to be there next month at the meeting if it doesn't snow. Because I just think it was so relevant and meaningful with the goal setting and the review of progress you're making. And I just want to share my kudos to everybody. I'm honored to be part of your group. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks so much,
Hope to
Laura.
see you soon.
Yes. Any other
Are there any more
thoughts?
sagas left?
Yeah,
Oh, there's
Jill,
a
sorry.
bunch here.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got
There,
some right
there's
here.
a whole bunch over here.
I mean, I have three. More to come.
I guess I lied.
I got some.
Mhm.
Here's one.
There's one.
There's one,
You
sorry.
want two more?
Yes, I have several people that want them.
Okay.
Okay, do I hear? a
I would like to make a
motion?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Second, Lisa, second, first. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
I will. Thank you. I appreciate it.